So what we're going to talk about today is taking care of your health pack. I think that whenever you do an object like this, it's really easy just to build it out of one object. But when you build something like this out of one object, texturing can actually be a bit of a problem. Now, I'm not saying you have to build your health pack out of one object. You can build it out of multiple objects. That's totally okay. But I'm going to show you how you could. So I'm just going to do your typical suitcase style health pack, okay, you know, for your video game. So I'm going to go like this. Let's flip it over, and I'm going to, let's see, scale X, scale Y. Okay, let's do a little bit more like that. There we go. And maybe, yeah, that looks pretty good. Maybe even make it a little thicker in the Z-axis. There we go. 1 on the numpad, 5. Let's put it up, down on the grid. Unity likes things to be resting on the grid. Okay, so there we go. So now I'm going to go into edit mode. And one of the first things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to start doing some loop cuts and slides. Now, I also know that I can use the mirror modifier greatly to my advantage here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a loop cut. I'm just going to put it right in the center, left click immediately, and I have divided this right in the middle. Hit the 7 key on the numpad, wireframe mode, take that and delete those vertices like that. And now I have the open there. It's open on this side. Go to my modifiers and add a mirror modifier across the X. And I'll turn clipping on so that that's all set. And now I'm basically ready to start making, you know, like a suitcase first aid style health pack. So in order to do it, what I'd like to do is I'd like to actually raise up my, like the little plus, you know, the cross, the red cross symbol. So we're going to do that in the center. And I actually want it raised up off the surface of my health pack. So I'm just going to do a series of loop cuts here to kind of help that happen. So I'm going to start with the vertical. I'm going to do one there like that, okay? Then I'll do another loop cut and slide here in the middle, left click. And then I'll do one here, and I'll take it and make it equal to this here. And I'll do another one on this side and make it equal to that there, okay? It looks pretty close. Now, I could mirror it in both dimensions, and it would probably work really well. And make sure that everything was even. But, you know, for the purpose of this demo, I'm not going to worry too much about that. So then I'll loop, cut, and slide, bring that in there. Loop, cut, and slide here, bring that down a little bit like that. That looks pretty good. And do one more here. Now, you might sit there and say, well, why all those loop, cuts, and slides, Weisford? That's crazy. Well, but can you see that the cross here? Right in the middle here. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but you know, but why it's thicker this way than it is this way? No, it's not. It's not going to be, at least when I mirror it, because don't forget this will be the same over here. So now I'm just going to take face select mode. I'll select the faces that I want for this raised up cross, red cross symbol here. I'm going to hit E to extrude, left click immediately, and bring it up. So now I've got a nice kind of red cross symbol right in the middle there. And let's say I want some like straps across the top here as well. So I'll go back to my, my vertices mode. I'll go back to loop, cut, and slide. I'm going to go here. Let's put like there. And we'll do another one here like that. Okay. And now what I can do is I can take that and I can extend this out to kind of make straps, if you will. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm actually going to do it in a couple different steps. First, I'm going to take my faces that I have here like so, and I'm going to do just the tops and the sides. I'm going to leave the bottom for a second, and I'm going to hit extrude and left click. And then I'll bring this up like that to kind of get the idea of the strap going on there. But notice I didn't hit S to scale. And the reason why I didn't is if you do that, not only does it work this way, but a lot of times it can screw things up. Actually, it didn't do too badly this time. But you'll notice it's getting a little wider than it was, let's see if I go Z, you can see it's wider than it was too. So it scales in the X direction as well. So one of the things that you can do if you want to, let me just go back here to before. So there it is. I haven't extruded it yet. So I'm going to hit extrude. I can scale it up like this. And then I can tell it not to scale in the X-axis. Okay. And the Y-axis by typing in there. And now it's going to kind of only scale in the Z-axis, but then I'm exactly in the same place as I was before when I just did, this. So I prefer just to hit extrude, move it up a little bit, just like this, and then visually what I'll do is I'll take this one and move it out the same amount. Now I've got this weird bevel down here. We'll take care of that in a second. And I'll go, let's see here. So I'll go 3, and I'll go to wireframe here, and now I can kind of see and match it up so it's about the same distance as the other one. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. It just has to be visually about the same so that people don't notice it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get back here like this. It's kind of cool actually with the beveled look like that, but we're going to continue on. So I'm going to take this and take these, whoops, and now I'm going to hit E to extrude, and I'm going to bring them down roughly again, so let's go like this. I want to do it about the same height as the other. That looks pretty good. In fact, you can even kind of tell because I'll just line this one edge up here. And there we go. So now we've got a pretty good thing, and all I really need to do is take this edge here and this edge here, right? And we're just going to bring them down until they're flat. Nice and simple. In fact, I could take both of them and do exactly that. So now we've kind of got our, a good idea of a suitcase style health pack, and we're ready to start doing some texturing. Actually, we're not. You know what? I want to put handles in it. So I'll hit 7 to kind of reorient myself, because sometimes I lose track of which way is up as far as the y-axis is concerned. So now we're going to go over here, okay, and I'm going to add some more loop cuts and slides to bring a handle out. So I'm going to take that. Let's go up a little bit. Another loop cut and slide here, about there. And then I'm going to want the handle to come out over here, so we'll just do another loop cut like that. That looks pretty good. Take my face there, select, bring it out. Okay. And then what I'll do is bring it out about as far as I want the handle to be. And then what I'll do is I'll come over here and I'm going to do another loop cut just like this. And go back to face select mode. And then I'm going to extrude that again and bring it out. Okay, so that I'm kind of building in a handle here. And now I want to delete that face so that it's open, because I don't want mesh where these two are going to meet. Now this is where clipping is really important. If you don't have clipping set up, then you can do this, which really makes a mess out of the meshes. Okay, so you want to do that. You want to make sure you've got clipping turned on, and then they'll meet right in the middle. And now I've got a pretty basic health pack. So let me save this, because I haven't saved it yet, which is kind of stupid. I'm just going to put it on my desktop. What you need to do is go into your game design folder, and you're going to make a new folder, and I'm going to call it health pack. Okay, whoops, caps lock is on. I hate that. Okay, then I'll click on that, and I'm going to call this healthpack.blend. Okay. Whoops. Typing in the dark here. Okay, so there we go. Save. So now, once you think that you've got it all ready to go, and you're ready to start doing texturing or anything else, one of the other things that I was thinking of doing was adding the subsurface division modifier to this. But what that does is, as soon as I do that, it does some really funky stuff where the two edges meet. So if I'm pretty sure that I'm done what I'll do is I'll tab out of my object, and I'm going to apply my mirror, and then I'll go back in. And it's important to kind of judge when you want to do that. And here's also one of the other things that I do. When I do that, I go to my File menu, and I say Save As, and I'll add to the name. I'll just say dash mirror applied. And now I've got two Blender files, one that's with the mirror on it, one that's not. Okay? And then that way, if I royally mess this thing up, I can always go back to the version that had the mirror at least. Okay, so now we're going to do a UV unwrap of this. Okay, we won't do the modifiers or anything like that. We're just going to do a UV unwrap of this, and then I'll show you how we're going to texture it, because it's pretty darn cool in my opinion, of course. So now I'm just going to do the textures exactly the same way that you might normally do it. Okay. Except I'm going to skip this strap here for a good reason. Go across here like this, up the sides, across here, leaving the top open. There we go. Do I have all four corners? I do not. Oops. Okay, and then I'm going to go, actually, you know what? I think I would rather seam it here. Well, it doesn't really matter. So Control E, mark the seam. So now it's just like any other cube. I've marked it so that it's going to flatten out. However, I've got all these raised faces, and beyond that, I want these raised faces to have a different texture. So I was thinking like something like black for the case, with maybe some brushed stainless steel for the strap here, and then red, obviously, of course, for the cross, and then maybe like black leather handle. Okay. So in order to do that, I need to set my seams all the way around for this. So I Alt-right click, and it almost went all the way around, but that's okay. It has to do with the way I did my extrusion here. But that did that. And then Control E. I'm going to mark my seam there. And then Alt-right click, Shift Alt-right click. That looks good. Control E. Mark my seams. Alt-right click, Shift Alt-right click. And then we can just do the two of them together. Boom, boom. And that looks pretty good. Control E, mark my seam. So now this strap here is pretty well seamed. However, we want to cut it at the end so that it lays out flat. So I'm going to take that one there. Actually, maybe I'll do it on the bottom. That makes more sense anyway, because that would hide the seam there. And there. So when you're doing seams, sometimes, where to hide them is very strategic. Mark the seam. And then what I'm going to do is going to go here, and I'm going to UV unwrap this handle. I'm going to UV unwrap it incorrectly on purpose, just to kind of let you know. By the way, you can also UV unwrap before you do the mirror modifier, and then I would actually be doing a little less work. Didn't think of that until afterwards. And so now we're going to UV unwrap the cross here. Whoops. Alt does not work very well for this, by the way. So you're just going to have to kind of go around the cross, and we're going to separate it completely from the body of the case so that we can put a different texture on that. So Control E, mark seam. Now, I didn't do any verticals, which is also incorrect for this. But let's just see what it looks like for right now. So I'm going to go to my UV editing. I don't understand why it does that. I hate that. Turn that off. OK. So I'm going to go back to vertice mode, select all, and UV unwrap, hit the U key, hit the U key again, and it's kind of a mess. This is probably my cross right here. You can see that. OK, there's my cross. OK. Who knows what that is? I think that's the handle. And then there you can see where the cross is cut out. What else did I forget to do? Anybody know? Remember? Yeah, I forgot to hit Control A. So let's tab back into object mode here, hit Control A. I'm going to apply my rotation and scale. We're going to come back in, unwrap it again. That makes a little bit of a difference. Here you can see the straps. Here's, is that the handle? I don't know. This is the handle, I think. Now, one of the things that you can always do, whenever you're not sure of what objects go where, you can take this button here, and it says, keep UV and edit mode mesh in sync. So I can click on that, and then I can just take and go to face select mode. And if I want to see, like, you know, what is this part here, I can just do this and kind of select that, and you can see, okay, that's the handle. Okay, and then I can go here and I can start selecting these. Ah, interesting. So that is, whoops, no. That's these sections on the sides here. Okay, and then those are the straps, and that's the cross. So you can identify what's what by doing that, and then I'll turn that sync off, and then I can still make manipulations. So we need to, the handle is what's really messed up. The handle and the cross are both kind of messed up. The cross, not so bad, and you could play with how that would look if you were to do it. It's going to get a little distorted, though. The textures are going to kind of get stretched. So in reality, what we need to do is we need to kind of take care of these pieces here. So I'm going to go edge, select, and I'm going to seam these vertical pieces here so that they can fold out away from the body of the cross. And we'll see what that looks like. Depending upon your texture, that may or may not be a good decision. We'll see. The other thing is I don't have a seam to help that goes along the body of the handle here to help that unwrap. So if I just take and do a seam right here, then all of a sudden everything's going to start working a lot better. So let's go back to UV unwrap. Select all, U, boom. Ah, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? Holy cow. So now we can start seeing what's happening. This is the main body of the case. Here we have the straps. This is the handle, and this is the cross, and you can see how the cross is really unwrapped rather nicely. There is a little overlap where the flaps are kind of coming up. That doesn't bother me. You just have to kind of see what happens as far as the ending result of your texturing is going to be concerned. But what I'm going to do right now is I want to give myself a little bit more room because these are really close to each other. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to hit A to kind of deselect. Let's get rid of this so I have a little more room. And then I'm going to kind of take this and I'm going to be on vertices select mode. I'm going to select some things and kind of move them. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's get rid of this handle and get the handle out. Now I know I grabbed a little bit of extra. So what I'll do is then I'll come in and I'll shift click on anything that I grabbed from a different object. There we go. And I'm just going to hit G, and I'm going to bring the handle over here and put it up in the corner. So that'll be nice and easy. Same thing with the cross, but instead of moving the cross is kind of up as far as it can go. What I want to do is these kind of twisted a little bit because of the way that I did the extrusion. It has to do, I think, with this having more vertices than this. You see how that's angled and that's got like a rectangle? And I could merge the points together, but I'm too lazy to do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deselect, take my circle selector, go in here, and I'm going to select this here, like that. Then I'm going to shift click, get a little closer here, on any of the points from the main body of the health pack there. Then I'm going to hit G. I'm going to grab this and get that up a little bit further. And then I'll take these, A, C, grab, and that's just going to get me a little bit further away. I could also rotate them if I wanted to, but I'm not too worried about that. And then I'll do the same thing up here. And I know I'm going to grab a little bit of the cross. I'll just take that. There we go. Zoom in, shift click. Oh, come on, you. There we go. And grab and bring that down. So now I've got a little bit, not a little bit, a much better UV unwrap that I'm going to have a lot more room to work on. These two are the same texture. I think they're going to be the same texture. If they weren't, I might separate them a little bit more, but we're good to go. So now here comes the real magic. We've got this all prepped, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this menu. Well, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to save. Then I'm going to go down to this menu here. It's going to say UVs. and I'm going to go up to the top of the menu and it says UV export or export UV layout. Boom. Now it's going to ask me what I want to do. We're going to export this as a PNG, and I'm going to change the name to Health Pack, and I'm going to call it UV exported. Okay? Boom. Now what this is going to do is it's actually going to export exactly what you see here as a PNG file. It's an image file format. And we can use this to copy and paste different textures into our UV that will match up our shapes. It's really cool. So let's minimize Blender for now. And if I go and I find there's the Health Pack. Find the folder on my desktop. It will be in your game design folder. There it is. And there's our PNG file. And you can even see it in the preview pane there. Right click, open with Adobe Photoshop. Okay, you can use GIMP for this sort of thing if you're doing it at home too. I'm going to use Photoshop because I know it best, and it works out well. So now we've got our export. These little checkers, for those of you who don't know, that just kind of tells you that it's transparent, which is really kind of nice. And here we have our export. These are the lines. This is the layer that's on. Layers are huge. The first thing I'm going to do is, this is a relatively important part of our video game. It's pretty small, but I like to design my textures at a high resolution. And then we can back off if we want to and make them lower resolution. So I'm going to go image, image size, and I'm going to double them to 4096. That's quadrupling them, not doubling. And that's going to be really big. That's a huge texture file, okay? And it's going to take up a lot of memory. And so once we start playing the game, if your health pack is, if you look at the health pack and you experience a lot of frame lag, especially if it's a pretty simple object, we'll want to back off on this texture, and that's so easy to do. Once you design it for a high resolution, it's really easy to back it off and make it lower. If you start with a low resolution and then all of a sudden you go, oh, this looks like crap, I need to make it higher resolution, you have to redo everything, okay? Because it just doesn't, you can't scale things up and they just look horrible. So here we go. So we've got our layout. We know exactly what we're doing. So let's go to the internet and let's grab some textures. So the first thing we probably look at is how about a brushed steel. And I still search for seamless textures because if you find one that's a little bit small, you can just copy and paste it. So we'll take images, and then we're going to find a decent one. And you still want to stick with the rectangle if you want. Oh, that's pretty cool, but it's diagonal, which is a little odd. I don't know if I want the diagonal texture there. So I might not deal with that one. That one's kind of nice. And we are going a little darker, so maybe a little lighter would be a better one. That's 1024 by 1024. You can make these yourself, by the way. It's actually really easy to make a brushed steel texture. I love this one, but it says it's seamless. I'm not sure I believe it, but let's try it. So I'm going to click View Image, and I'm going to then save the image, and we're going to go find the Health Pack folder, and I'm just going to save that in there. So now inside the folder, there's that seamless metal texture. Let's open with Adobe Photoshop, and then I can go select all, edit copy. You can do this with keystrokes, it's so much faster, and then edit paste. Now it's going to bring that in. Oh, that is tiny. Okay, that is really tiny. I'm not so sure that I would choose that. It's way too small. But I could rotate it and copy and paste it a bunch of times, but that's not worth it. So let's just trash that. You could scale it up a little bit too, but then you usually lose quality. So I'm not sure I even want to really tell you that because you're just going to lose quality. So if you're looking for something that's pretty big, you can go to Google here and you can go Tools, Size, Larger Than, and let's set it for 2 megapixels and see what I get. You want to stay away from stuff like this that has massive changes in shadow and light. And the reason for that is you're building a 3D object that's going to have lighting put on it. You don't want shadows on the texture. You want to allow the light that you put in your scene to set the shadows and the highlight for the texture. So kind of like to stay away from that. Here's this diagonal one keeps coming up. That's pretty cool. That one's not bad. Let's see what this one looks like when I download it. Oh, it already downloaded. So I'm going to click Show in Folder, and it's set to my download folder. So I'm going to cut it, go to Desktop, Health Pack, and I'm going to always want your textures in the same file as your Blender file. Let's open this with Photoshop. That, so I can hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy, close it, and V to paste. There we go. That'll work. So now what I can do is I can take this, I'm just going to Alt drag, and now it's not seamless. Jerks. Well, you know what we can do? Watch this. Edit, transform, rotate. Depending upon what you're doing, you can always rotate it. Double click to lock it in, and it's still not seamless. I was going to try and flip it. All right, we're going to go find one that I downloaded, 5th period here. Just so. Then I'm also going to speed things up a little bit, because what I can do is I can also just copy and paste them from the internet. But I don't recommend doing that because you want to save the image files in your folder so that you have them for future use. But yeah, I have one that I did 5th period. So we're just going to go that, and I have that one didn't work, so it's this one. So we'll copy that and paste it in there. And now we'll open it with Photoshop. Okay, select all, copy, and paste. There we go. And that's actually good enough. So what I'll do is, again, it's got this kind of highlight down the middle here. You probably don't want that. So we're just going to do this, and then I'll Alt drag, and it will snap to, and that's seamless. How about that? That's going to work rather nicely. Now I can take my original layer and drag it back up over top. We can see how everything is working. Shift click, I can drag these down a little bit, make more room. Now I know it's overlapping here. Trust me, that's not much of a problem here. But I'll show you how we can take care of it if it is. So everything's kind of going sideways, so we should be good on that. So let's go back to Google here, and whoops, and let's look up now. Let's do like a dark steel or black steel maybe. Fifth period, they wanted me to do carbon fiber, and it didn't really work very well. That's interesting, but again, you see we've got this lighting difference. Although it's high enough in resolution that it's not horrible, but it's not going to be really great. What's that look like? That's kind of cool. That's 2000 by 2000. We could use that. Now, we still have some of that texturing, that lighting difference, but let's try it. So I'm going to click View Image. Let's save it, put it in there, and then actually I can also right-click, copy, and then let's go into Photoshop and paste. So that's not bad, except for the fact that it really doesn't have, let's see what happens if I Alt drag. Whoops, my bad. So let's bring this underneath here for a second. I'm going to Alt drag it. See, it's not really seamless. So that's a big problem. So again, I think when you're designing at higher resolution, you're going to run into this sort of thing a lot. I can also try to take my, go back to my tools. I didn't need to clear it, and set it up to go to like 10 megapixels. That's going to limit me pretty dramatically, but I might find something. That's interesting, like a black leather. Maybe a black leather case wouldn't look too bad, but that's so big, the texture's so big that I don't think it would be very good. Oh, black wood. It's got a logo on it, of course. Well, maybe we'll do carbon fiber. We'll just do carbon fiber, because I found the carbon fiber. I found a bunch of stuff there. So now we've got carbon fiber, and you can see we've got a whole ton of different things. Let's see that. Oh, I hate those. That's great, but it's so the texture is so big that it won't look very good. I kind of like that. That's like a fabric. Let's try that though. I like that. Save as. I'm going to save it in the folder. Now I'll copy it. I always save it because I want to make sure that I can get it again. So paste. Bring that in here. That, and you know what? That covers the whole thing, which is really nice, actually, without too much. That's like perfect. That's almost too perfect, because then I can't really demo what I was going to do the next. Okay, so now let's do like a black, let's do like black plastic or a black leather for the handle. So we'll go black leather. Okay, and you get the idea here. Tools again, size. Let's go like there, and I kind of like that. Well, it's got a. Well, we might be able to avoid that if it's high enough resolution. So let's try it. So I'm going to save, boom, copy, and you guys get the idea about what we're doing. Oh yeah, there we go. See, that's going to work out, and this will actually. This is going to be part of the problem, so I'll show you how we do this. So now we have to figure out what to do with the cross. So what I think will probably work really great with the cross is to use the same fabric texture that we have here, but to turn it red. So let's take that, and I'm just going to duplicate that layer by right-clicking on it. And now I'm going to take it, and I'm going to, auto select is on. I'm going to take that layer, and I'm going to grab it. I'm going to put it where I want it here like this. And now I'm going to take an adjustment layer here, and we're going to just add a bunch of red. Now that adds the red to everything below it, so we can clip that layer here like this. Those of you who are familiar with Photoshop, that's going to be a little bit easier. For those of you who are not, it's a little harder. But I can you know, kind of take a little bit of dull it down a little bit. Midtones, add a little green and add a little blue to kind of dull the red down. I like that. That looks pretty cool. Highlights, same thing. That looks pretty cool. Okay, so now the first thing you might say is, okay, it's great, Wise Probe. We've got everything. However, you've got this is coming into the straps and all that sort of stuff. Well, let's take care of that. So one of the things that you can do to any layer is you can add what we call a layer mask. Now you could just go for it and hit the eraser and start erasing, but what if you wanted to slide this around and, you know, play with different areas? So you add a layer mask, you take a black brush, and then that will paint, when you paint black on the layer mask, that'll kind of erase what you're doing. I find it helpful. Let's make sure our lines here are up above so we can really see. Now you don't want to do that. I'm painting black on the layer, not the layer mask. There we go. And the cool thing about layer masks like that is 3 days from now, if I want to get that back, I hit the eraser key, click on the layer mask, and as I erase, that layer or that color comes back. So now I'm just going to kind of make sure that I'm not getting any part of those straps there like that. That looks really good. I'm going to do the same thing up here with this black leather, add a layer mask, and just kind of make sure that that's not doing anything. There we go. And that looks good. This goes to the edge. Basically, we're set now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit File Save, and I'm going to put it UV. I'm going to call it In Progress for my Photoshop file. Okay, nice and simple. Now I'm going to turn that top layer off because we don't want those lines on our texture, obviously. And I'm going to go Save As. And we're going to save it as a JPEG. And we'll call it, we'll just call it Health Pack Texture. And then it's going to ask me where we want to save it. 9 or 10 is pretty good. Should be well good enough. And now we can minimize this. And let's go back to Blender. And go back to default. And we're just going to add our texture like we normally do. So I'm going to go back here. And it should have a material and a texture already added because you went through the UV unwrap process, and so it kind of knows that you're doing that. So I'm just going to choose an image right here, and then I'm going to click Open, and I'm going to find my texture. I'm going to open that, and then we're going to go into UV editing. Now we're going to go into Edit mode, make sure everything is selected, and then down here at the drop down we're going to choose our texture. There it is. And let's take a look and see what it looks like. Not too shabby. Looks pretty cool. So now a couple things I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of the fact that the metal is like going sideways on the straps, but I can live with that. But I might rotate the texture, go back to Photoshop, rotate the texture, all sorts of stuff. So let's just take a look here, turn the environmental lighting up, and let's go to full rendered mode. Why does it do that? So sometimes in rendered mode, it messes up. I don't know why. And when it does that, I just delete the material, go back and re-add it, and oftentimes it does it again. There. I don't know why it does that, but sometimes it does do that. So now you can kind of see how we've built this custom UV texture so that I can actually make it look like this object is made out of several different things when it's actually all one single object. And it looks pretty good in my opinion, okay? And like I said, you don't have to make your health pack multiple objects, but or a single object, you can make it multiple objects, but there are ways of doing the UV like this so that you don't have to. So, for instance, we were building a log cabin, okay, and you have logs that on the end, if you want the bark on them, the texture on the end caps of the logs is different than the texture of the log itself. So that was a place where we actually used that on the buildings, whereas most people weren't doing this for their buildings. I actually had 2 people who were doing log cabin style stuff, and we had to do this. You have to do it for that because you can't not make the logs out of one object. And by doing so, it looked really good. And so here you have a really nice looking thing. And you could throw a subdivision surface modifier on this, do some edge creasing, and I think you would have a really nice looking health pack. And I've done that all in the span of, I don't know, what has it been, 35 minutes, but I'm talking. So if I hadn't been talking, I could have totally done it a lot faster. Does this make sense to everybody? It's a really cool technique. Save. All right.